Welcome back to the Chester Centurion podcast, the show where we dive into journeys, lessons and insights of the incredible business and community leaders shaping Chester and the surrounding areas. And I'm your host, Alan Bark. Today we're joined by someone who plays a huge role in the cultural heartbeat of our city, Annabel Turpin, CEO of Storyhouse. If you're from Chester, you'll know Storyhouse isn't just a building. It's a landmark from its origins as the old Odeon cinema to becoming a vibrant home of theatre, cinema and library spaces we know today. In our conversation, Annabel shares the unique balance of running Storyhouse as both a charity and a commercial organisation. Whether you're an entrepreneur, a leader or simply someone curious about how community spaces can transform a city, there are some powerful lessons in this episode for you. So let's dive in. Annabel, welcome to the Chester Centurion podcast.
Good morning. It's lovely to be here.
Well, thank you. But before we get started today, you're from the Story, and everybody in Chester and the surrounding area, of course, knows the Storyhouse. It's iconic. But I'd love to know a little bit more about the history. If you could elaborate a little bit, that'd be cool.
Of course. So Storyhouse opened in May 2017. So we are about 8 years old. Originally, I think, as many people will know, the about half of the building was the original Odeon cinema, and that closed. And then there were lots of discussions locally about what should happen. And eventually the council, together with an organisation called Chester Performs, kind of came together and developed this vision for Storyhouse, decided to put the central library into the space along with theatres and cinema provision. And so some parts of the building are new build, the kind of one end of it, and then the original end is still there. And I think it's a really sympathetic and beautiful blend of the kind of the old and the new. So lots of people that come have lovely memories of coming here to the cinema. But obviously lots of new visitors coming for the first time are just wowed by the space, the integration of the library with the kind of theatre and cinema provision. I've been here about 18 months, so I'm relatively new to Chester. So I can't imagine Chester without Storyhouse. But all of the people that I've met have talked about how brilliant it's been since it's been here, you know, what a difference it's made to the city. And I've been overwhelmed by the amount of kind of love and support there is for the organisation, because I still think of it as being quite new. You know, 8 is actually quite young. So yeah, that's the history. That's how it got here.
I know my daughter's a big fan, and every time we walk by, she drags me in. She's been in the children's spaces, the craft areas, and I think you do storytelling as well there, and it's wonderful, really, really cool. So how do you approach scaling the story? You know, not just in terms of audience growth, but in building a sustainable business model behind the scenes?
So a lot of what I do, I think, is really about balance. So we obviously have a massive programme of work with local communities. We do lots of work with young people, with older people. We have more than 50 community groups that come in and use the building. And we want to make those aspects of our programme as accessible as possible. So that kind of charitable part of what we do is obviously supported by the really commercial aspects. So the profits we make on food and drink, some of the theatre performances that obviously are kind of more commercial. So a lot of what I do is really about balance. So when it comes to scaling, it's about making sure that you don't disrupt that balance, because if we just go all out on the commercial side and make loads of money, we're then not fulfilling our charitable purpose, because we are a charity as well as a business. If we do loads and loads of the work that we know is really valued and really makes a difference to the kind of lives of local people, then the chances are we're not going to be able to afford to sustain that if we're not also bringing in, you know, money on the commercial side. So a lot of it is about balance and making sure we scale kind of those two areas kind of in conjunction with each other.
Yeah, that makes sense. I've never really thought about it before in those terms, but yeah, I get it. Very clever, very clever. So what strategies have been most effective in attracting, developing and retaining great people? Because obviously the Storyhouse is a group of incredible employees, and you know, it's a really purpose-driven organization like yours. So getting the right team and the right people is so important. And what would you say has been the most effective strategy bringing that team together?
So I think there's sort of three aspects to it. I think in terms of attracting people, I always want to make it clear that there is a job to do, that by joining somewhere like Storyhouse, you can make a difference.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not just coming in to kind of fill a vacancy, that you as a person can make a real difference, that there is something here that you can do and achieve. I think telling people about the organisation, not just the job, is really critical. You can go and be a finance officer in any organisation, but being a finance officer here at Storyhouse hopefully brings additional benefits because you are working for an organisation that makes a real difference to people's lives, and you've got to get that across when you're attracting people. And using the organisation's assets to sell the job, like in Storyhouse's case, obviously it's our building. Who wouldn't want to come to work here every day? So I think whatever your organisation is, thinking about the assets that might help sell the job, not just the job itself.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think once you've got people, I think I'm a big fan of working in the office. I know there's lots of debate about working from home, and I think we're an incredibly flexible employer. We do take really seriously that the job has to work alongside people's, personal lives. So
Mm-hmm.
flexible working hours, different working patterns, all of that is built in. But I think you've got to give people a reason to work in the office, to connect with colleagues and really see the impact of what we do firsthand. Because if I work at home 3 days a week, I'm missing out on seeing all the kind of the joy and the experiences that our customers are kind of getting, because I'm not seeing that in front of me. And that's what motivates me. And I think that's what should motivate other staff. You've got to be learning from each other. You've got to make time to listen and talk to people and really kind of reflect on the difference that the organisation's making. So you've got to make it a place people want to work. If it doesn't work for them, it won't work for you. So that flexibility is important. You've got to offer opportunities to people to develop different areas of interest and kind of build on people's strengths, and ultimately show they're making a difference. So that kind of celebrating success and reflecting on things that have gone well as the things that haven't gone well, I think is really important.
That's really interesting. I think that there was a lot of stuff you said there about understanding the overall objective of the organization and what you're part of, and almost having a purpose. And we had the head of Abbeygate College on recently, mm-hmm. and he absolutely echoes that. And the next generation of I guess employees that we've got coming through the education system are looking for purpose. They're looking for a business that has a strong identity and that's something they can be proud of being part of. Is there anything that you actually specifically do, if we were to dig a little bit deeper into that, to reinforce that with the team?
Yeah, we've recently introduced some impact measurement methodology. That's a very long-winded sentence. But basically, it's a process where you interview people that you engage with. They might be customers, partners, creatives that work on our productions. You ask them about the changes they've experienced as a result of being part of Storyhouse. And then you take those stories and you discuss them with colleagues, with board members, other staff, and think, what can we learn from this story? This
Wow.
person has experienced this change. What is that telling us about what we're doing? What can we do more of? What can we do better? It's called Most Significant Change. I'm a big believer in it. But that process both enables us to hear firsthand what difference we're making, but most importantly, to spend time with each other reflecting and thinking, what does this tell us about what our organisation values should be? So that's one of the things we've done to sort of encourage that.
I love that. Absolutely love it. It's all about getting the environment right for people to thrive. And you've talked a lot about listening and talking to people, and you called it most significant change, almost analysing what's the change that they've gone through and how can we get more of the good stuff and less of the bad stuff. I absolutely love that, Annabel. Really, really cool. And it reinforces, there's a book called, it's actually called The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team by a gentleman called Patrick Lencioni. And the bottom layer is an absence of trust. But what you're doing is you're building up a huge amount of trust in the organization where people can openly talk about themselves. So cool. I love it. There's a lot of lessons there for a business organization to build a spectacular team and then an environment for them to thrive in. I think there's a lot of lessons there for a lot of people. Thank you for that. So how do you personally define success? Is it just ticket sales, impact, legacy, or is it something else entirely?
I mean, no business can get away from the bottom line, and for us, that is about ticket sales. But I think when I was sort of thinking about this, the first thing is everyone having a good time? Like, that's what we're here for. We're a cultural destination. So, and when I say everyone, I mean staff as well as customers, because we all know, if you go to a restaurant, you've got happy waiting staff, you get a better meal and a better experience. So it's not just about keeping the customers happy. You've got to look after your staff team as well. And that obviously includes, the creatives that are part of staging productions here. I think the second thing is, are we making a difference? Are we actually making a positive impact on the people that we work with? And, as I said, we're a charity as well as a business. So we have a very clear purpose to use arts and culture to improve people's lives. So that difference is really important. Hence, we use that methodology I mentioned. It's brilliant. Google it. I definitely recommend it, because it really helps you understand not just if you're making a difference, but what difference you're making. Are we financially resilient, and are we growing that reach and that impact? If we're just seeing the same faces every day and they all look like me, we're not doing our job. We need to be reaching out to all of the different communities around us, and seeing that reach kind of increase.
Love that. So is everybody having a good time? Reminds me of Walt Disney, because his vision and purpose was to make people happy. And he could acid test everything against that, whether you're visiting the park, watching a movie, whether you're a staff member, even his shareholders, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. Different things keep different people happy, but
Yeah.
it's a good measure.
Was it Duck McScrooge, one of the characters? I'm not sure, but and then, are we making a difference? Have we got financial resilience? I absolutely love this, and it's how you measure your success is these elements, which leads back to balance, doesn't it?
Definitely, yeah. Because if you're keeping everyone happy but you're not financially resilient, you haven't got a business. But equally, if you've got a business that's doing really well but everyone's really unhappy, it's not going to be sustainable, because people are going to stop engaging, whether that's stopping wanting to come and work with you or stopping being a customer. So again, it is very much about that balance.
Very good. So the sector often relies on funding and partnerships. How do you maintain financial resilience? You've already talked about it, but while staying true to your mission?
I would say it's not whilst staying true to your mission, it's by staying true to your mission.
Oh, I like that.
Just to be a bit controversial. So Storyhouse was set up as a charity, and I think you can very easily lose sight of that. You could become sidelined. We all know that financially, times are really tough for all businesses. So you can become very focused on just generating income. But I think what I've tried to do since I've joined is really refocus on that charitable mission. Remind everyone that we generate commercial income in order to deliver that mission. So telling everyone we're a charity and showing why we're vital are two of our key objectives at the moment. I think it's really important to thank people for their support. It's very, I try and say that if I meet someone, they're like, as you said, you're a customer, like, thanks for being a customer. Thanks for supporting us. That really helps us in what we do. So there's no one answer. I think it's always a mix of investing in income growth and then getting the best value in terms of your expenditure. I think inertia is a really, someone very wise once said to me that we lose more money through inertia than anything else. So I think that revisiting budgets on a really regular basis, we've all seen it where contracts just get rolled over because, how many years do we really ring up and, chase our insurance premiums, or how often do we just go, just renew it again this year? It's only an extra tenner or whatever. So it's that kind of inertia. You have to make sure that doesn't creep into an organisation or a business, and make sure that you're always really sharply focused on that best value.
Interesting. I haven't heard that before. So we lose more money by inertia, and it's about making sure you're aware of all the costs going out of the business and staying sharp. I think you said, Annabelle,
Yeah.
staying sharp, right?
Yeah.
Because momentum is everything, isn't it?
Yeah. And it's too easy, I think, to think, oh yeah, we put that out to tender, or we've brought that supplier in, they've offered us a really good price, or we've always done this, we've always had that level of support on that IT contract, or but the world is changing really quickly. So you've got to be revisiting budgets all the time. Do
Mm-hmm.
we still need to spend that much on marketing that show?
Mm-hmm.
Or actually, now we've built up the audience, maybe we don't need to do quite as much.
Mm-hmm.
But over here, we've got something that's really new that we need to invest in because it can bring us more reach, more impact, more money in the future. So I think it is just staying on the front foot.
Mm-hmm. So, talking about yourself now, Annabelle, I mean, what would you say your most significant shift in your leadership approach at the story since you've joined?
So I moved here from a similar but much smaller organisation. So I've come to Story. I've got an amazing team of directors and senior managers. So I've moved further away from the detail. And that was a real challenge for me because I like detail. So I was like, how am I going to deal with this? And what level of detail do I need? And I think where I've landed, and I'm not saying this is the right position, is that I still know it, but I don't have to get involved in it. Unless obviously I'm asked for support or help or there's a problem. And I've realised that I do need that detail to do my job properly. But the difference is not needing to get involved in it in the way I might have been in a smaller organisation where I didn't have the kind of the levels of expertise around me.
Mm-hmm.
I think the other thing is it's a very practical thing. But I am quite an open, like accessible person, or I like to think I am. And when I first started, my office was at one end of the building and most people worked at the other end. And I've recently moved, so I'm on the same side as the majority of staff. And it has made a huge difference.
Mm-hmm.
I feel much more connected. I feel like I'm much more present. And hopefully that's really useful for staff. So sometimes, people talk about leadership in lots of different ways. But I think just being present, being there, that thing about giving people a reason to come to the office. Well, if they don't see me, then that's not helpful. That's, I mean, maybe it's going to have the opposite effect and
Not at all.
working from home more, but hopefully that isn't going to happen. So, yeah, I think sometimes we think about leadership in kind of theoretical terms, but I'm a firm believer in it's what you do, it's how you behave, it's where you are. That opportunity just to chat to people and say good morning is really important.
So I was very fortunate to see meet Gary Vaynerchuk a couple of weeks ago. Gary V, I think he calls himself online, but he I was quite surprised, but he spends over 50% of his time one-to-one with his team, making sure that he's out there talking to everybody in his organization. He says it's the most powerful thing he can do as a business leader. So really interesting to hear you say that, Annabelle. And again, a great lesson for any business owner. How as your team grows, don't lose sight of every single member in that team and get to know them as well as you possibly can. Build a family, I think he called it. Build a family.
Definitely.
Yeah, so cool. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on, Annabelle, but I've got one question left and it's a biggie. So I'm glad you're sitting down. Are you ready for this one?
Yeah.
So listen, what would be the 3 pieces of advice that you would offer aspiring entrepreneurs, or maybe someone just starting their journey, or maybe they've started a business and they're facing real challenges at the moment? What would be your top 3?
Purpose.
Okay, now you're not getting, that's not all 3, is it?
No, that's just the first one. That's just the first one. Although it could be all 3 because I feel that strongly about it.
No, it's good.
What is the purpose of this meeting? What is the purpose of this partnership? What is the purpose of, this stream of business, strand of business that I'm developing?
Yeah.
You've got to have a clear purpose. And we touched on that earlier. I think there's even more expectation of that. But it's so easy to just end up in situations and forget what you're really there to do. So that's the first one. I think the second thing is taking time to reflect. I think particularly for entrepreneurs and people that are running businesses, both personally and organisationally. How can I be better, and what is the organisation doing really well, and what could it do better at? That time to reflect. You're so busy, you're jumping from one thing to another, you're hungry to get on to the next thing. And I definitely learned that later in my career than I wished. But that reflection time is really important.
Yeah.
I think, I've got a couple. How can I squash these into one third one?
We'll let you have 4 if you want.
I think not ignoring problems and facing them head on.
Yeah.
And that's a little bit, I'm sort of quite a big believer in failure and talking about failure. I think it should be a positive thing, not a negative thing. I think we're not always very good at stopping doing things. We think stopping something is bad. Sometimes stopping something is the thing that is going to make your business fly.
Yeah.
So that not ignoring things, not being afraid to take difficult decisions, that actually will be so freeing. I think that's something that's the hard bit, isn't it?
Yeah.
But that's the thing that can make a real difference, and try and making that a kind of positive. They're probably my 3 things.
Wow. So I'm going to ask one more question, and it's a new one. I haven't asked this before, Annabel, but it's something that they do in the diary of the CEO. So if you were to pay forward a question for the next guest we have on the podcast, what should I ask them? And while you're doing that, I'm going to summarize this, because I think there's some huge lessons in what you've just said. Having a really strong purpose, and that's coming through a lot of these podcasts, and very spectacular business owners in and around the local area, prominent business owners, all have a strong purpose. And I think, there's something to take away from that. Taking time to reflect, taking time, allowing your head the space to be creative as well is really important. And it's a big mistake that, especially the smaller businesses, they're working in the business so hard, trying to make things work, that they forget to work on the business, and they forget to give themselves that time to reflect and think about the future and plan for the future as well. And then not ignoring problems is quite topical. I can't mention why, but it's definitely a topic I've had with one of my clients this week. Is there's no point in sticking your head in the sand. We need to take this head on, and it's been an incredible eye-opening experience for them as well. So not being afraid of the big decisions, not being afraid of the difficult decisions. Fear stands for false expectations appearing real. So let's just make sure we're making the decisions that are going to move the business and the organization forward. Some great stuff there. Really good value to anyone listening. So I've given you a little bit of time to think about the question. What do you think? What do you think I should ask the next guest?
I would ask them, what makes them get up in the morning and go to work now, and what will make them get up in the morning and go to work in 3 to 5 years' time?
Whoa! Thank you.
The reason I'm saying that is because I think that gets to the heart of what the purpose is, what their purpose is, but also encourages them to reflect a little bit.
I've taken a note of it. That is on the list. Thank you. I'm not sure who we've got on next, but you'll have to keep an ear open for that question and see how they respond. Annabel, I will let you know who it is. But thank you so much for being on today. It's a real pleasure having you on, and thank you for making the story. It's an incredible venue in Chester, and really good coffee as well, right?
We all thrive on good coffee.
Really good coffee. So cheers. Thank you, Annabel, and we'll speak soon.
Thanks very much. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.